Is Mr. Frank Pastorino. Frank is a 36-year UPS member out of Local 238, which is right here in Iowa. He is also a board member of the National United Committee to Protect Pensions, and his question is regarding pensions. Frank Pastorino?
Right here, right here. Thank you.
Where's here?
Over here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, by the way, I may be Irish, but I'm not stupid. I married Dominic Giacompa's daughter.
Okay.
Let's get this straight.
Thank you for being here to answer our questions. Like she said, Frank Pastorino. I'm a retired Teamster from Winterset, Iowa. I saw you 3 weeks ago at your town hall meeting over there. I, of course, have gotten involved with this through the NUCPP. To protect my pension, my co-workers' pensions, but it's also for my grandson here because I'm worried about, that's another Franklin here, I'm worried about the work environment he's going to inherit from us when it comes to education, when it comes to opportunity, when it comes to compensation. And I think these are all important things. You're familiar with the ongoing crisis that we have in the multi-employer pension system. And that's going to hurt the retirees as far as devastating cuts to their benefits. We're going to have a negative effect on actives in their retirement when it comes along. We're reaching a point where we're going to have a Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, the PBGC, go bankrupt. That is the federal insurance agency which is responsible for covering these pensions. They are going to collapse and go bankrupt. These are good, hardworking people all the way through this. They work their entire lives in order to earn these pensions. They pay their taxes, more than their fair share of taxes to our nation, and many of our people are veterans. Probably better than 50% of my group in Des Moines are veterans, and many of them are Vietnam veterans, and we cannot disrespect them again. We need to make sure that we honor these pensions. My question to you is, what is your plan to address the pension crisis in America and restore retirement security to American workers?
Number one, there was a great senator in Ohio who introduced the Butch-Lewis Act. And here's the deal. Folks, look. The fact is these multi-employer pensions are the only way it works for the significant number of labor unions, particularly you all, particularly Teamsters. And I'm going to see to it, according with the Act, and maybe go beyond it, and that is that we open up, to use the fancy term of the Treasury, open up a window at the Treasury Department, meaning that they can provide 1% loans to make sure these multi-employer pensions are able to sustain themselves so that they don't go bankrupt, so that you're able to maintain the pension, number one. Number two, the way that works is you're going to have, in addition to that, we have to be sure that we deal with the larger section. You talk about veterans, you talk about other means of, I remember, I grew up in a household where my dad did not belong to a union, although the folks up in Scranton where I came from, if you listen to Barack, you'd think I climbed out of a coal mine with a lunch bucket in my hand, but I would be proud to scrappy Joe Biden from Scranton. But my dad was a white-collar worker. And when everybody lost job, when coal died in Scranton, Pennsylvania, everybody lost their job. My dad moved down. We moved down to a little steel town called Claymont, Delaware, which has been eviscerated now, but that's a different story. And I remember my dad. I can remember we lived in a 3-bedroom split-level home with a grandpop and 4 kids, and it was safe. We weren't poor, but it was just a normal, I guess technically lower middle class home. I remember, but the walls were thin. And I can remember my dad being so concerned and restless. And I asked my mom what was the matter. Well, the outfit he had that he worked with, there was no more pension. The pension went under. And I watched what had happened. My dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. And it's about, this is a God's truth, what he say to all of my siblings. And it's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, think of all the people who can no longer say that. Go back to the old neighborhoods. The people aren't union members. How can they say it? They don't have faith. Yet for the first time in American history, you have more than half. We're no longer the wealthiest middle class in America and the world. We have over 55% of all people thinking their children will never be able to reach the state that they've reached, the economic prosperity they had. And it's got to change. It gets back to all of you. The reason that's happened is because of the loss of power of unions in America. And so when you talk about pensions, we have to talk about the pension guarantee fund that is able to be funded through federal government funding at a low 1% rate so that we can maintain the hundreds of billions of dollars that are needed over time to keep these pensions alive. With regard to your grandson, you asked a separate question. At least I view it as a separate question. What do you do to make sure he's got a shot? What do you make sure that he or she, your granddaughter, has a shot? Well, I tell you, do two things. Number one, the idea that anybody in America works 40-hour week and lives in poverty is absolutely barbaric. It's not who the hell we are. So there should be immediately, we should move to a minimum. It won't affect you all. You're beyond it if you have a job. But a $15 minimum wage. We also have to change the way in which we educate people in America. Ladies and gentlemen, you have an awful lot of kids growing up in what they call Title I schools, schools where the tax base is really low, where it's not based on color, it's based on income. But guess what? The teachers are leaving. They're not getting paid enough, so they can't stay there. They're increasing class sizes. Number two, they find themselves in a situation where there's no social workers in the school anymore. They don't have school psychologists. There's one school psychologist for every 1,500 kids in America. Kids coming from tough homes, no matter what their background is, need help. They need help beyond learning how to read, write, add, and subtract. And so what I do is I triple the amount of money from $15 to $45 billion a year for preschool so that every single child in America aged 3, 4, and 5 can go to school. And we can do it. And every study shows, by all the great universities, every study shows that increases exponentially the prospect that that student, no matter what their background is, will do very well in school and go beyond high school, either to trade school and or to junior college or college. It's about giving opportunities. Guys, you all know better than I do, ladies and gentlemen. 12 years of education in the 21st century is just not enough. It's not enough. And we should be proud for people who get also, my time up? No, I got another few minutes. I see you looking at your watch. I'm boring the hell out of you. I don't know. It's your wife. Well, answer the damn thing, man. I answer mine when she calls. But look, all kidding aside, everybody, here's the deal. We're in a situation where 12 years of education is no longer enough. But for example, there's 100,000 jobs out there, 100,000 decent-paying jobs in high-tech industries that we're fully capable of being able to do, but no one's been trained to do them. Companies aren't spending any of the money. We go through and look at all the detail. There's a guy from the University of Massachusetts did this long study. Corporations made trillions of dollars, several $1 trillion overall. Guess what they did? They took 35% of it, and they gave it to their stockholders. They took another, over a period of 12-year period, they took another 58% of it, I think it's 58 or 59%, and they used it on buying back their stock. They buy back their stock because it increases the benefits that the management gets because they get paid in stock. They left 9% for everything else, 9% for wages, 9% for research and development, total, 9% for new development, 9%, that's it. That's what's happening today. And it's wrong. It's simply wrong. So we have to go, and I come from the corporate state of America, Delaware. But guess what? I've been a pro-union guy and have a better record than anybody you're going to be talking to for that entire 36 years I was a senator. I'm not saying that because blah, blah, that's not it. Because what happens is, again, when you give people a shot to get in the middle class, Everybody benefits. The wealthy do very, very well when the economy's growing. Because guess what? Middle-class folks like my dad and my mom and you guys and you women, you spend everything you have. Not because there's a lot, because you're profligate, because you need it to get by and everything, and hope you have a little bit of breathing room, right? Well, guess what? That grows the economy for everybody. Everybody. And that's not happening now because we're denying access. Denying access. We should have free community college for everybody. By the way, it's $6 billion. We can put everybody in free community college, cutting in half the cost of college. And by the way, I'm talking about people coming back. We're in the middle of an industrial revolution. You guys are knowing it. I won't give his name because I don't have permission. One of my buddies I went to school with in Claymont, I went to a little Catholic high school called Holy Rosary. And afterwards, I went on to the local Catholic school that was a prep school. It was academically challenging school. And I worked in the summers to be able to get the tuition on the school grounds. And this guy went on and became a trucker. And guess what? As he always point out to me, he made a hell of a lot more money than I did over time. But guess what? I saw him about 3 Christmases ago. And I'll end with this. I'm sorry. But it's important to this. You know, we wonder why people have anxiety. We treat people where I come from and the neighborhoods I come from with high school degrees. I didn't have any friends whose parents had college degrees. We treat you like all dummies if you didn't go to college. But here's the deal. He sees me and he walks up and he goes, "Joey, baby," he grabs my cheek. I thought the Secret Service were going to shoot him. I said, no, he's my friend. I said, "How you doing, buddy?" I won't mention his name. He said, "Doing okay, Joey." I said, "You still driving?" He said, "No, only guys like you that never worked in their life can continue to work." And he laughed. I laughed at him. And I said, "How's your son?" His son is the same age as my son who died. And I said, "How's he?" He said, "He's in trouble, Joe. He's in trouble." So I said, "Can I help, pal?" I thought maybe he had a drug problem or he had a problem in his family or a health problem. He said, No, Joey. I said, he's still driving, Joey. But he knows in 5 years he's not going to have a job because of automation of trucking. We treat people in this country like they're stupid. You think you all don't know exactly what the rest of the world is saying and doing? And there's not reason to have anxiety about the mechanization of trucking? So what's going to happen? What are we talking about? What are we doing? I remember I've always had support, not only from you, but I've always had support from postal workers. 20 years ago, I said, what I'm worried about, you guys better begin to organize and figure out how you're going to deal with the change. I said, they're not going to have to mail something anymore. You're not going to have to pick up the phone. They're going to figure out how to get the message without any paper. They'll look at me like I was crazy. How many of you are UPS drivers? Raise your hand. You can tell them, can't you, what's going on? And so, folks, we got to start treating people with respect. I really mean it, respect. And I'm sorry to say this to you, but a lot of times you guys don't even treat people with respect. When's the last time you walked out of the house with the guy who is out there cleaning the sewer to keep your basement from flooding? How many of you walked out and said, "Thanks, man. Thanks for what you're doing"? I have never, ever, I was raised by a man who you could never walk by anybody without recognizing them. No UPS driver ever came up to my house. I didn't walk out and say, "Thanks, man. Thanks for the job you're doing." I mean it. We are turning into this like this guy running the show is turning into. We don't treat people with enough respect. And respect, first and foremost, is treating you for what you are worth, what you do, the value you add. And like I said, man, if in fact the Teamsters went on strike and said, "We're finished, we're going into some other business," the entire economy would come to a screeching halt. Every single Wall Street banker, if they stopped tomorrow, wouldn't have a damn effect on anything, just about. I really mean it, not a joke. So, folks, remember your power. I guess I'm supposed to get the hell out of here, aren't I? I'm sorry.
We love you.